This is Tech Tuesday, where we shine the spotlight on a trending theme in the world of technology and gain a better understanding of where trends are leading in the world of tech investment. This is Tech Tuesday, presented by the Canadian Securities Exchange. Thank you to everyone today for joining us live for this week's Tech Tuesday. We'll be talking about the Internet of Things. Presented by the CSE, we have three companies. Brian McKinney, President and CEO of ICEsoft Technologies. Abel Sierra, IGEN Networks. He's the VP of Business Development. And representing HeyAuto, a private company, Brent Lane, CEO, and Brett Jones, Chief Business Development Officer. I'm this week's moderator, and this represents our lineup. Our objective in running Tech Tuesday is twofold. First, for companies to gain visibility and traction on an accessible platform. The second is to inform capital markets players and participants about the types of companies in the space while providing new knowledge of what is happening in the world of Internet of Things. What is the Internet of Things / IoT? It's a system of interrelated computing devices, mechanical and digital machines, objects, animals, or people that are provided with unique identifiers, UIDs, and the ability to transfer data over a network without requiring human-to-human or human-to-computer interaction. The thing in the Internet of Things can be a person with a heart monitor, implant, a farm animal with a biochip, transponder, an automobile that has built-in sensors to alert the driver when tire pressure is low, or any other natural or man-made object that can be assigned an Internet Protocol, IP, address and is able to transfer data over a network. For that information, I'd like to thank Andrew Gillis, technical writer and editor of the Internet of Things Agenda.com. For you, the attendees, we do ask that you share your ideas, possible leads, and funding and feedback with the presenters. You may even have a potential strategic relationship. You can find their contact information in the profile box below. We will also refrain from giving management advice unless we are truly experts in the company's particular field, and please don't treat our presenting companies as targets for marketing services. Housekeeping items: if images aren't clear or pictures are incomplete, check your bandwidth, refresh your screen, call your IT department, or try a different platform, as we are broadcasting on YouTube, LinkedIn, and AirMeet. This presentation is for information purposes only and is not a solicitation to make investment in either shares or debt or to buy and sell stock. We make no representation about these companies, and if you are interested in the investor pitch, please connect with the companies directly in order to get more information. Each company will have a 5-minute presentation, after which we will have a Q&A. And to start us off, we're leading with Brian McKinney, President and CEO of ICEsoft Technologies. Brian McKinney is President and CEO. He is a successful serial entrepreneur with 30 years of leadership experience developing both consumer and enterprise-related technologies. Prior to ICEsoft, Brian was president and co-founder of Audesi, AUDESI Technologies, Inc., which developed Java-based management solutions for embedded devices and was sold to Wind River Systems. Prior to Audesi, Brian was responsible for Nortel Networks, consumer products development initiatives, and during his time at Nortel, Mr. McKinney oversaw the development and commercialization of over 60 consumer products. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Physics from the University of Victoria and has a Master's of Science in Engineering from the same institution. Over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Barrington. Certainly appreciate the time this morning to talk about ICEsoft Technologies and Voyant Alert. So a little bit about ICEsoft as we get started. ICEsoft is a software as a service company. We're based in Canada with offices in Calgary and Victoria. We're publicly traded on the CSE, trading under the acronym ISFT. We've been around for a number of years, over 17, and in that time we've kind of extended. We have clients in by way of around 320 communities across Canada, and then some 450 enterprise clients across, globally. In addition to that, as we work through this introduction to the Voyant Alert technology, hopefully the takeaway is that, this is highly differentiated. So Voyant Alert is a multi-purpose notification service. Think of it as a mass communication tool. It's used for both emergency as well as day-to-day communications, both across communities and enterprise. One of the things we focus on is delivering a more enriched communication package that can be customizable to each individual recipient's personal circumstance. We find that combination of personalization and enrichment tends to drive a higher level of enrollment and a much higher level of engagement. Now, when we started the project a couple of years ago, we did a fairly deep survey of the various competitors and the market opportunities. And one of the things that we recognized was that about 60% of North America's population tends to live in smaller, more rural communities. So communities less than 100,000 people in size. And so as we developed the product and the service, we did that with the notion in mind that we really wanted to be targeting these small to medium-sized communities, regional governments, and rural deployments. So both from a training and support perspective to the various features that the product offers. So this is kind of our go-to chart, focusing on the differences and how we really differentiate the product. On the left side image, you see kind of what's more the traditional alerting style. This is stemming from a lot of participants and providers that came out of the late aughts, so kind of post 9/11 alerting mechanism. It tends to be very tech-centric, fairly generic in nature in terms of where it is. So good job getting the alerts out, but sometimes it lacks a little bit of context. To the right side is an image of what we try to achieve with the Voyant Alert product. We really focus on delivering a much more personalized and enriched communication, so people can expect personalized maps that show up in it. We show them the direction and distance from an instant site. So as in the case on the image on the right, it might indicate, hey, the gas leak or the train derailment is located 120 meters to the south or the southwest of your home location or your child's school. We provide automatically directions to various shelters or evacuation routes. So imagine an incident at your child's school occurring, and you have to go pick them up. In the frenzy and the heat of the moment, things might get muddled. So the system can automatically provide you with turn-by-turn directions from your current location into where that pickup point is. So kind of facilitating that. All of our alerts can include rich media files and imagery. In part, that's to drive home the point, but also to provide more relevant content and context to it. So imagine a boil water advisory where formal notification might have to go out. We have the ability to attach those notices to it. We integrate directly with third-party systems. So whether that's federal and provincial alerting systems where we either import alert and rebroadcast, or we export, alerts to those systems. We also do it for things like Environment Canada, the National Tsunami Warning Centers, that sort of thing. Our response is we monitor those services every few seconds. In the event that a critical incident is detected that impacts a client community, we notify those administrators directly. So if you're familiar with some of the more recent tsunami warnings that went out, oftentimes we'll intercept the data as it emerges, say from NOAA or the wave buoy information, and be able to broadcast it directly to the administrators, and they're more often than not receive our alerts, and they're in the office ready to respond, even before the official alerts or the warnings are going out. We do a lot of advanced geofencing with the product. We're probably one of the industry's leading geofence specialists in terms of where it is. So we're down to, the square meter or the house level of geofencing. And one of the successful byproducts of that is it means that we can really target the message. So when residents are receiving a Voyant Alert message, they're doing so not in a generic sense, but they're getting that message simply because there's an event that's close to them that's relevant for them. So context and is kind of provided, and relevance is more or less assured in that sense. The other element that we provide to our communities and to our enterprise clients is the ability during a critical event to monitor your key personnel or your employees in terms of where it is. So imagine you're dealing with a gas leak and you want to keep track of where maybe some of your volunteers that are on the scene are at any point in time. So, provided consent is secured and provided, we can do that real-time tracking of that personnel. So how's it been going? The proof is always in the pudding. We're sitting right now, as of today, at 350 plus communities covered. Year over year, we're seeing a doubling of new business, and we've done that now for the last several quarters as we've gone through it. One of the things that makes me personally really happy is we're looking at a 98% renewal rate, so a very sticky market. And I think it also reflects to the value proposition that we're delivering. Over the last 12 months, we've had occasion to have 42 head-on-head or multi-head-to-head competitive engagements where it's been us and other competitors. We ended up winning about 83% of those deals, so 35 of the 42, which is a very positive sign. We do see system usage expanding. So in 2021, as an example, we delivered over 80% of BC wildlife alert fires or wildfire alerts. So these would be evacuation notices, evacuation orders. We saw the same thing here in the fall with a lot of the West Coast flooding events that were happening. So we're particularly well used at a local level when decisions are made or maybe federal or provincial alerting systems are inappropriate to be used in some cases. And last but not least, we're seeing about 66% of our inbound leads sourcing from referrals. And for me, that's an outstanding target to hit from. It means that people like us well enough that they're referring us to friends and neighbors as they go through. The byproduct of that is that it's driving down our time to close metrics. So, we started in 2021 January with about 120-day close window on average, and we ended the year at about 60 days. So, that certainly helps reduce our cost of sales, and again is more of a reflection on the technology. So, with that, I'd like to say thank you. And again, I guess back over to you, Barrington.
Thank you so much, Brian. We really, really appreciate it. This is a great piece of tech and a wonderful usage as far as early warning detection and alert. So I had this is the part of the program that's called the Inquisition, and because a lot of our audience may or may not be familiar with some of the terms, could you define what geofencing is?
Think of looking at a map, and geofencing allows you to maybe draw a shape on that map or import a shape from another source. And it allows you to send a message to anybody that is either located within that fenced-in zone or that polygon or geometry on the map. And not others. So an example would be, say you have a larger community and maybe water or power are turned off to a couple blocks in the northeast. In conventional systems, you might put out a notice and everybody might get that notice. And you kind of get inundated and saturated with all of these messages that are hitting you. So with geofencing, it means that we're only sending messages to those houses that are directly impacted by the power outage or the water shortage. And so we're reducing that noise level, if you will, for everybody else.
Okay, no, that makes sense. You mentioned you're winning your you're winning your battles on head-to-head contracts and things of that nature. And for our audience, if you want to listen and check out their website. It's www.icesoft.com. You are less expensive than your competitors, and I'm curious as to how that can be with such a robust platform and things of that.
I think part of it is that our cost of goods is it tends to be a lot less. A lot of our competitors are more reliant on text messaging and voice calling, which we support all of that. So we have a multimodal delivery. So however the end user wants to receive them. But one of the things that we notice is about 65 or 70% of the people that registered do so through mobile apps. And for us, it's a more cost-effective vehicle, so we can get our costs down a lot. The other thing I think that helps with our cost is that we tend to target those smaller, more rural communities to a larger extent. And for us, that there's fewer moving pieces associated with that. So as a result, we can focus on less expense-driven features and more on kind of the features that are more important to those rural communities.
You've talked a lot about Canada, and in particular British Columbia, with great examples, unfortunately, about the wildfires that happened last year. Now, what about expansion into the United States and beyond? And I'm just thinking of the current situation that's going on in Europe and how that would and could be applied.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started our expansion into the US in the fall. It's actually ramping up much quicker than what we saw in Canada from that sense. There's nuanced differences between the market, but the value proposition is holding in terms of what we've seen. We're already in 10 states. And the rollout is very similar to that of Canada, which is, we do some work, we kind of get that lead account in a state. And then very quickly after that, we start getting this word of mouth and the neighboring communities start to come on board. So we kind of have this clustering effect where we get an anchor tenant, and then the subsequent ones are usually within, 40, 50 miles in the States from that original tenant where obviously there's some influence and discussion there as we go through. As we look towards Europe, it is an expansion zone that we're certainly looking at in that one. But for right now, our focus is on North America, pretty heavily so, especially with a lot of the environmental incidents that we're seeing ramping up and stuff kind of closer to home. There's a lot there that's kind of on our plate already as we grow. So,
thank you for that. And information that you receive, that the product receives, what info do you get and how do you get it? Because the product is as good as the information that it's reading.
So two parts. One is when we sell into a community. The community is the one generating the content. So it might be the fire chief or the emergency management coordinator. It might be if they're using it in a day-to-day sense, the director of communication. So they log into the system on the web and they access their account, and then they manage and distribute that content themselves. So we're kind of that infrastructure there. When we do third-party services monitoring, we generate the content and we broadcast it directly to the administrators, and then they can decide whether or not it merits, retransmission out to the general community at large. So an example might be a federal alert. So you're familiar with the Alert Ready federal system. Tends to be used in risk to life kind of events, that sort of thing, big ticket items. It does a terrific job of getting that initial word out. Unfortunately, it doesn't reach out to all of the channels. So things like email, landline phones, that sort of thing. And so within that alerting ecosystem, our community administrators then receive that alert. They look on the system and now they can rebroadcast it out to all landline phones that are registered in their area and really disseminate that information as required.
And I'm going to take it down a notch because this is for a lot of the information you're talking about is for disaster disaster recovery, wildfires.
Sure.
Is there a product within ICEsoft, and I think I might know the answer, that is just more day to day,
Yeah.
just a little less treacherous and things
Yeah.
of that
So
nature?
about 75% of our community clients use the service for day-to-day alerting as well. So there's a softer, quieter mode. It sounds more like a text. It's colored differently. And it's used for, as I mentioned, 75% of our users use it multiple times a week for local events, facility closures, park trail updates. We're putting fertilizer in this park here, keep your dogs off. Garbage has been delayed. That's where the vast majority of the alerts are that go out is in that context. And used properly, what it does is it tends to bring a lot more people in under the tent so that when an emergency does happen, people know the system, they trust the system because they're getting that relevant context. And your reach is that much broader during, when those rare occurrences happen that you have to send out an emergency alert.
And what happens? How will ICEsoft deal with if there's an emergency to how that information is getting out there? Like, say, for example, servers go down, or I guess I'm looking for the backup mechanism or the backup to the backup, just to make sure.
We actually do that more than what you might think on that one. So our system, we're backed up. We're doubly backed up. So we have hot swap overs and stuff like that, and a tremendous uptime in terms of where it is. So our infrastructure is up and running. Where we see the occurrences happening is during a crisis, where our client community's ability to communicate may be compromised. So maybe they have an emergency management office in a town or a city, but the fire is taking out their cell towers, or power is down, or they're having to evacuate. And this happened multiple times this past summer with some of our BC-based communities where they were just forced to evacuate, in terms of where it is. Our support infrastructure is set up such that if they're compromised or they're unable to send out these alerts, they reach out to us, and then we can compose, and often do so, the alerts on their behalf. And then we go through a series of protocols where they can then approve those alerts, and then we can rebroadcast on their behalf under their guidance. We basically act as an extension of their communication arm, if and when we need to be done that way.
Brian, I have one final question, and this might be not the greatest, but is the information in the data personalized to the actual user, or is it personalized more to the region, like, say, area code, zip code, postal code?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So first, let me say registration is anonymous. We don't need your name or anything like that. As you go through the registration process, you interact with the system to identify locations of interest. Maybe it's a home location, and it's clicking on a map and dropping a little pin at your child's school or your office, or whatnot. So once that's identified, we personalize it. If we know where your pin is that you've labeled work, and we know where the gas leak is, we can now personalize it automatically and tell you that, hey, the gas leak is located 500 meters to your northwest. We show you on the map where the gas leak is and where your office location is. And then we overlay that with the recommended evacuation routes that might be there, in terms of the main ones. So yeah, it's done to the person, not to the region or the postal code.
And I guess the instance I was thinking is, if I'm away and I'm getting an alert, I can contact my family to let them know, hey, this is going on, check your phone, or watch the news, or these are the best routes, even though I'm not anywhere near that area. So
that's exactly right. You can also forward those messages and those alerts on to your family members and friends and family. So it works that way. About 50% of our end users, it looks like, as we harvest the data, monitor a loved one's location. So presumably an elderly parent, maybe that you're looking in on or trying to monitor, garbage day is closed, so you kind of phone you phone that parent and just remind them, hey, it's there's no garbage pickup tomorrow, so put it out on Wednesday.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. We really, really appreciate you and appreciate the value and the safety features that that the product is offering. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, and we'll now move on to our next presenter. Abel Sierra is proud to have served as president of the Antelope Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, AVHCC, the first president to be elected to a second term in the organization's 14-year history. The mission is to provide Hispanic entrepreneurship, community growth, and development by supporting economic programs and development designed to strengthen and expand the potential of all businesses. In 2013, Mr. Sierra began his career in the telematics industry and was shortly hired after by IGEN Networks Corp. Since joining IGEN, they've had partnerships that have been set up with Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T, and is in the process of discussions with Sierra Wireless. International markets are currently being developed for market growth to include Canada, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Mexico, and Colombia. I've done enough talking. Let's turn it over to the experts. Mr. Abel Sierra, let's kick it off. Over to you.
Hello, Barrington. Thank you so much for that introduction. I wasn't expecting all of that, but thank you. I definitely appreciate it. So everybody asks, what is IGEN? As you can see here in the slide, we are in the automotive space. We're a software company. We are a publicly traded company, both on the Canadian side and the US side. And we really focus in the automotive channel, both commercial and consumer. So what we try to do is we try to address a lot of the issues that are out there. As you can see in some of these bullet points, there are over 800,000 cars stolen annually. There's a lot of teenage fatalities due to driver behavior and speeding. There's a lot of mispricing by the insurance companies because they really don't know how to properly rate the drivers. And as you know, there's a lot of commercial vehicles out there for asset tracking that everybody wants to manage. Next slide, please. So let's talk about our technology. So as a software company, we really focus on making sure that our software is agnostic to the hardware. Now, this is one of the unique features about our company is that we can pretty much take any software out there, any GPS telematics device out there, and we can integrate it into our software. One of the other things that makes us unique is that we have a patent. This patent is something that was just issued last year, and we're really excited about that because it gives us the ability to do driver score and really rate the drivers and how teenage drivers are doing out there. There's a lot of insurance companies that have started doing this, but they're not a telematics company. We're the only ones that have that patent. And with the easy use of our app, you can download our app on an iPhone and Android and see exactly where those vehicles are at any time. And we're cloud-based, which means that we can scale at any time, anywhere. We work with AWS, and we have our data is both stored on the East Coast and the West Coast for redundancy. So let's talk about our consumer automotive channels. So the first one is called Family Shield. Family Shield is actually an online product that we currently promote on Amazon and Shopify. This is for personal use. So the moms and dads out there, they're wanting to make sure their teenage drivers are driving safely and all their loved ones are doing well. They use Family Shield. The next one is Nimbo. Nimbo is our car dealership product, and this is really pushed through dealerships like Toyota, Honda, GMC, different dealerships across the country. And it really gives peace of mind of those drivers that are buying these cars to be able to see where their car is in case it gets stolen. And we have a great partner with T-Mobile that we've been able to establish now. And they also, through their B2B channels, are able to market our product. So now we're going to talk about our commercial side of the product. We call it Medallion. We have established some great partnerships, mainly with the County Executives of America. which have close to 700 counties across the U.S. And with that exclusive partnership, we are able to promote our Medallion GPS product for fleets to all these government entities across the country. So with that, I want to go ahead and make sure that you have a way to be able to get a hold of us. Neil Chan is our CEO. And as you can see, my contact information, please feel free to email us or give us a call. Log on to our website, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions and give you more detailed information about our products.
Thank you so much, Abel. We appreciate it. And, you know, anybody who's over the age of 16, at least in this house, it's almost everyone. We definitely have used the technology. I used it actually last time when I purchased my latest vehicle, and didn't get the reduction in the insurance rates that I was hoping for, but there's always next time.
You need our product.
Exactly. Now we move on to HeyAuto, Brent Lane and Brent Jones. With a background in new venture feasibility, Brent had a clear vision of what Vivid Theory Studio model would be. Over a decade of technical experience, from web application design, UI and UX, product ownership, Brent's deep skill set and ability to lead a large team that drives the impressive growth of the HeyAuto SaaS platform. And Brent Jones, in its infancy, Brent joined the Vivid Team Theory, bringing over a decade of automotive experience and expertise in IT, infrastructure, finance, and business development. Brent's passion for creating a full-service digital automotive ecosystem for the next generation of consumers. And we quote, "It isn't just buyers and sellers anymore. Let's reimagine what car ownership looks like." And with almost two 16-year-olds in this house, I don't want to reimagine what car ownership looks like just yet. But I'm speaking from a different point of view. I'm turning it over to Brent and Brett, HeyAuto.
Great, thanks for that intro. I appreciate you having us.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so HeyAuto is the product under the Vivid Theory brand. It is a full-service automotive ecosystem. On the front end, we have a beautiful marketplace that we've been able to grow and build over the last 2 years with over 2,000 Canadian dealerships onboard themselves onto our platform. But the real journey for us is on car ownership on the back end. So, connecting consumers and dealers in a way that hasn't been done yet in the industry. So, we always like to use the analogy: you walk into a restaurant and you say, "Who here is buying a car?" You might get one person put their hand up. You say, "Who here owns a car?" All 100 folks are going to put their hands up, right? So we want to target that consumer because it's not just about dealerships, it's about downstream automotive vendors and be able to connect that tissue through the data in our back end of our platform. So HeyAuto on the surface, like I said, it's an automotive marketplace. It's a way for consumers and dealers to be able to connect and purchase inventory. And then what we do is we layer on a few different service offerings in the back end of our dealer portal that are very sophisticated marketing solutions that allow our dealers to be able to connect to that next generation of consumer. I mean, we see nowadays the digital retailing side of the business, but a lot of people still want to go in and connect and drive a car before they purchase it. And once they do, we want that car to live on our platform where we can start to layer on the downstream offering and services from automotive vendors, glass installers, oil change places to be able to participate and have access to that consumer in a marketing capacity.
Yeah, at its core, the HeyAuto experience is a SaaS platform for the dealer and automotive partners to pair that data with a SaaS platform for the car owner. So by adding on different service offerings for the car owner to experience their ownership cycle, we allow them to integrate with those same data points through the dealership cycle through the SaaS platform in the back end.
Yeah, and one of the things we're very excited about, I mean, we offer all of our services from digital auction to consumer to dealer auction, right through to a integrated DSP to be able to apply these services for dealers to be able to, like I said, participate in this next phase of digital car ownership and purchasing. So, and then, our very exciting product that we're building towards in the future is what we can achieve in the blockchain on the finance side of the business. So we're never going to be holding inventory and selling inventory, but we want dealers to be able to do a full sales cycle transaction through our platform of their own inventory for the consumer and be that facility for them.
Yeah, and one of the things we're really excited about offering this year is kind of our ESG approach to the automotive journey. We have a full gamified ESG for both the consumers and the dealers to participate in, to kind of give back to the environment through their ownership cycle. We are also engaging with micro EV manufacturers to provide a marketplace for them to expose their brands to large groups of customers in the retail market. So our platform, as a summary, is all about connecting those car owners to the dealers and all their automotive vendors through our sophisticated offerings.
So this is the part of the program that we bring in everybody for the Inquisition. We're going to ask some Q&A. So if we could get Abel back on the studio floor backdrop, that would be great. So one of the consistent questions that we keep asking when it comes to the Internet of Things is the data and the types of data that your companies use, because of course data in is data out, and what is actually worthwhile, what is actually beneficial. Do you see any regional differences? I didn't say anything with demographics, things of that. Anything that we can glean that we might not necessarily think of off the top of our heads. So yeah, I just want to talk more about the types of data that, HeyAuto uses, as well as IGEN.
Yeah, our hardware is collecting a lot of different types of data, as you mentioned. Both on the consumer side and the commercial side, it focuses really on the driver behavior. On the consumer side, we're trying to keep families safe. We're trying to keep teenagers safe. And we want to give the parents that peace of mind of them knowing that their loved ones are driving responsibly. So the data we're collecting are speed, harsh brakes, rapid acceleration, harsh turn left, harsh turn right. And we're collecting all this data to be able to generate a driver score through our patent. Now, on the commercial side, the fleet managers, they want to make sure that their drivers are driving responsibly. So this same data is also feeding into our algorithms, and it's also providing that driver score to make sure that the fleet managers know which drivers are driving good, which ones are not. Maybe you got to pull a driver aside and say, hey, listen, we're noticing you're speeding, you're harsh braking, et cetera, et cetera. So at the end of the day, it's taking that data, converting it into a driver score through our patent. And this is actually, it's not a new thing. You got companies out there like Allstate, State Farm, Progressive. We've all seen the commercials where they're using a hardware device in the vehicle to collect that data and be able to properly rate the drivers. The only thing that they hadn't done, which we did, is they didn't have the patent. So we have that patent to be able to do that process. And that's where that's where a lot of the interest comes from the investor side, is they know that with that patent, we're going to be able to accomplish a lot, both on the consumer side and on the commercial side.
And HeyAuto, let's talk about the data. Do you want to?
Yeah, let's talk about data. I mean, yeah, it's the foundation of our platform. I mean, the entire HeyAuto experience is built on top of a very sophisticated data model. So what our data focuses more on is on the retail consumer experience. So we take huge amounts of customer data, 60 million data points about everything from how often a customer is viewing a picture about a vehicle to what specifically they're interested about that vehicle. We're able to provide those insights as marketing initiatives to both marketing companies and dealerships, letting them know very geo-specifically how they should be targeting those customers. Whether 35 to 45-year-old females are liking red Honda Civics versus white Honda Civics in the Lower Mainland. So those kind of initiatives are one way we leverage the data in our marketplace. Another thing we really focus on is connecting that data so that it just becomes less laborious for consumers to be able to interplay with the dealership experience. One example of that would be in our glove box model. We allow consumers to upload receipts, documents related to their vehicle ownership, which then provides them with a clearer picture when they go to sell their vehicle through our platform on all of the service and receipt storage that's happened throughout that vehicle ownership experience.
I have a question. It might be related, might not be. And I'm a football fan. And I was watching the Super Bowl, and it so happened that 100% of the car commercials on the Super Bowl this year was about electric cars.
Yeah,
100%. So I guess what I'm leaning towards and getting at is will there be a difference with data collection and with easier data collection, perhaps, or at least consumer preferences, safety preferences, the amount of information you get back, depending on the type of car? So electric versus gas.
Yeah, Barrington, from our standpoint, the only thing that's really going to change is maybe how that device integrates with the vehicle. Other than that, we expect the same amount of data, the types of data, the driver behavior data to be just as important, if not even more so. So obviously, we see a big trend with the OEMs and them coming out with these electric vehicles. We are ready for that difference. And actually, we've already have had our devices in electric vehicles. So it's going to be as important, if not more so.
Yeah, this is happening. I mean, it's absolutely happening. The mandates are in place. The manufacturers are on board. There's a heck of a lot less components in an electric vehicle. So, I mean, there's a lot that can be deciphered through that information and that data. For us, we know our target demographic. That is the next generation of car buyer. That's young. We focus female in our design. These are decision makers, and these are the people that are really pushing for this EV market. So everything that we do in our build is around that, because we've seen that immense growth in the last 2 to 3 months. So all the data that we're collecting, we're going to be able to attribute to that as well.
Yeah, and I think to further that point, Barrington, I mean, the data is going to become really, really important with all of the micro kind of EV manufacturers popping up, because they can compete with that. It becomes harder for the consumer to decipher, what makes this EV manufacturer better than the other. Where is that marketplace information in this emerging economy for EV vehicles, where a consumer can go and shop from many different small manufacturers and get a clear understanding of how to compare them? So that's something we're excited to provide, is that one-stop marketplace for the hundreds of small EV manufacturers that are competing with the major OEMs for that new EV buyer.
Shifting gears, what do you think about self-driving cars?
I think they're great. I know there's still a little ways to go before they're 100% safe, if that's even going to be possible. But we're also on our roadmap. We are looking at those types of vehicles and styles of driving to make sure that our algorithms take that into effect, because we are focused on driver behavior, but with the self-driving vehicles, that's going to change things a little bit for us as well.
Like, do you think we'll get a better understanding of, a clearer one of user patterns and developing urban planning and urban transportation and those types of things?
Absolutely. Aside from the driver behavior, we're also collecting data as far as when vehicles are being driven, where they're being driven, how often are they being driven. This is all data that the insurance companies really can use to properly rate the drivers when it's time to renew their policies.
HeyAuto. Yeah. I got a question for you. I just wanted to say HeyAuto because it's there. Are there any constraints that you're experiencing with the supply chain crunch that is going on right now?
Yeah, I think it represents kind of a unique opportunity right now. There obviously are constraints with the amount of vehicles being able to be produced right now due to the chip shortages and other kind of supply chain issues. We have a platform that allows us to provide value to our dealer partners when they're short on inventory, and also provide them with marketing initiatives when they have lots. So for us, it's just, as many companies are doing, it's adjusting that service mix to be able to facilitate the current market space.
Yeah, it's been a learning experience for the dealers too. I mean, the direct ordering is been huge, and they're looking for different ways and different alternatives to be able to run their business. So any way that we can help facilitate that and work with them, we're a dealer first platform, so we're going to do that. And that's been on our roadmap of anything we're building. We just make those adjustments as necessary and put those releases in place to be able to facilitate where we can help.
Now, I was flying. I went away last week for work, and at the airport, I met a gentleman who works for Mercedes, and they had no inventory whatsoever, but they had one of their most profitable years in Canada. Do you see this continuing as we get back to as we get back to normal? Will there just be a shift overall? Will there be a continued spike? How long will that spike be? Is there any kind of information you might be able to tell our audience?
Yeah, things change with time. I mean, the fact of the matter is more vehicles are being manufactured. Dealers' inventory counts are coming up. We're seeing it on our platform, especially in the last couple of months. It makes sense they were highly profitable because people still need vehicles, and people were taking less public transit, so they were paying up, right? Those percentages were going up. And, like anything, though, that will readjust and correct itself. But I think the idea that how people are purchasing vehicles and for what length and for their term and amortization, these things are all being adjusted. Banks are having to make adjustments based on this. I mean, you have a vehicle that someone's paying 30% more than it should be currently valued, and they're taking out a loan on that vehicle. What does that look like long term? You know what I mean? That vehicle still has to come back in 2 or 3 years for a lease back or a trade-in. How do you put a value on that? And where is that money going? So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered there, but the automotive industry is resilient. They'll make it work.
Yeah, Barrington, and if I can add to that, from the
please.
IGEN Network standpoint, with all these shortages on the new cars, it's opened up an opportunity for us because our dealership product was primarily for new vehicles. Well, with the shift, a lot of these dealerships hadn't had a choice. They had no choice other than to add it into their used car inventory. So that was a niche that we hadn't been able to penetrate because it was mainly new cars. Well, now we're in used, and as the inventory comes up on the new, it's really gonna help our company grow even faster. There's 3 times more used vehicles out there than new. So the used car side for us is huge. And once the market gets back to where it needs to be on the new side, that just means more opportunity for us.
I would love to add to that if you don't mind.
Keep adding. Let's do this.
That's a great. I mean, one of the things that we notice, everything that we're focused on is the next generation of car buyer and what that looks like. So them purchasing used cars. Great point about the used cars. It's crazy right now. So if you listed your used car for sale, your phone would blow up with not only private buyers, but dealers and wholesalers and whoever can get their hands on that vehicle, they're going to do that. So one of the really great pieces of software that we built into our back end is our My Offers platform. So this allows consumers to load their vehicle into HeyAuto, and then we request bids from dealers near their geography, and then those dealers can make their offer. It's blind bid, and then consumers can communicate just through the chat. So they don't have to give up any of their personal information, no phone number, no email. They can chat at their comfort level, facilitate the deal online, and make that transaction happen. So even the way people are buying and selling used cars is changing rapidly. So us to be able to facilitate that for our dealers to participate and have access to a consumer in that way, and to be able to protect our users has been really valuable for us. We've noticed a huge trend with that. So
I'm going to add to that. Because you touched on something that I'm not sure this is going to where this is going to go, but the 2 parts. It's one, who will and does have access to all of this information because of privacy and protection and all of those things. And as part of data collection, there are certain trends that may come up, which might not necessarily be politically correct, which might not necessarily be favorable, but there are trends nonetheless. How do you deal with that? What do you do with that? And let's talk about the privacy and protection of just data and the information. So whoever wants to jump in.
No, that's huge, Barrington, and it's funny you should ask that question because we're addressing that as we speak. We have been for a few years now, privacy of all this information. So what we've had to do is, as we partner up with a lot of these entities across the country, we've really had to look at not only the federal guidelines, but every state's a little bit different as well. So as we do business in the different states, especially in the government sector, we've really had to look at what their requirements have been. Things like making sure that the data is somewhere in the US, right? Not overseas. That's been a big deal. Making sure that the data is secure, making sure that the database is being stored in places that, for redundancy, a location on the East Coast, location on the West Coast, even though we are cloud-based, but this data is still, there's companies that are storing it and managing it. And, a lot of security features go into that. And, for natural disasters, if a natural disaster happens, if a company gets hacked. So we've really had to look at that, and we follow all state and federal guidelines when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'll speak more on the consumer side. Like data security is really important to us, obviously. We are pulling in huge amounts of data on every kind of user device and everything that's coming through the platform, but all of that is behind privacy. And kind of one of the emerging trends in the data space, ironically enough, is people are starting to opt in to be able to share information for revenue share. You see it with the ad market now, where people are opting in to say, hey, I'm okay if you track me as long as you give me something for it. So I think it's all about like transparency with this kind of evolving, world we're living in, where people are aware of these sort of things and how powerful their user behavior is to companies that are looking to gain insights. So yes, we keep everything really secure, but give them the ability to share when needed if it benefits them. I think that's an important point. It's more about transparency of what's being shared and when people want to share it versus just obscuring everything. So that's my feedback.
That is one of the many benefits of the blockchain. And when it comes to certain disasters, our third company, ICEsoft, is well versed in that area. Gentlemen, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Canadian Securities Exchange, as well as the fine people here at Tech Tuesday. We will definitely be in touch, and we will make sure that this gets broadcast and that people learn about HeyAuto and IGEN Networks. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Barrington. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you to our presenters, Brian McKinney, President and CEO of ICEsoft Technology, Abel Sierra, IGEN Networks Corporation, VP of Business Development, and from HeyAuto, Brent Lane, CEO, and Brett Jones, Chief Business Development Officer. Thank you to the people who have worked behind the scenes, Anil Mall, James Black, Melissa Robertson, and of course the founder and creator of Tech Tuesday, Mr. Mark Francis. Lastly, thank you to our attendees for taking a slice out of your day to learn and support the companies on Tech Tuesday, both public and private. Go to the company's websites to learn more about them and their projects. If you have a lead for them, make sure you connect. Next Tuesday, please come back as we feature another public/private company showcase. You won't want to miss it. Don't forget to click, subscribe, like on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and may you have continued success in expanding your business.